Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is here. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
And Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is alongside. Welcome, Jim.
One of these days, we're going to tell them what we talk about off the air.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Jim, state pension reform has been proposed in the state legislature. It's gaining bipartisan support from about 24 lawmakers. Do you agree with the different aspects of the proposal, and should it be approved by lawmakers?
Well, it's also generating complaints from bipartisans, so it's probably equally as bad. There are all types of seeming remedies to a now $94 billion problem of unfunded pension liability. I think this latest one is anybody that would join the pension plan after 2011 would be required to contribute an additional percentage of their salary to try to put somewhat of a dent in this, which, as I understand it, was something that was tried in the Arizona state legislature a few years ago, which had a similar but smaller problem, and it was found to be unconstitutional. So much for that strike. This is a massive hole. I did a little reading on this, and as I understand it, the beginnings of this problem, which was basically not making the complete contribution to the pension fund, goes back as much as 20 years or more of the legislators and the governor, in some cases, looking at this big pool of money sitting over there, saying, you know, if we were to delay our contribution, we could sweep that fund over here and we could do wonderful things with it. We could build roads and statues and buildings and bronze plaques that will contain the names of all of us for now to perpetuity, and we'll catch up later. And we never caught up. And we continue to have the problem. Now we're talking about changing how people contribute to the pension system. We're talking about moving the teachers' portion of the pension problem back to local school boards. We're talking about all kinds of things. What we're not talking about is how we're going to raise $93 billion to cover this pension obligation. The fact that we are now getting ready in, 2 weeks to go into a lame duck session, and I think there are 36 legislators that are not returning to the next Congress. We may have some type of a passage, but we've got a problem that's going to take 30 years to fix. If we start doing it now, I think one that I read was one of these plans would make the fund whole by 2045. So we're talking, 33 years from now. The fact that we have, I think, 12 or so legislators saying this seems to be a good plan, that many and more saying it's a bad plan, it may have some merit here. But we've got a huge problem that is going to continue to multiply and is going to continue to grow deeper and deeper if some very difficult decisions are not made.
Pat, we have a bipartisan proposal in the legislature for pension reform. We've got a couple of dozen lawmakers behind it. Do you agree with the different aspects of the proposal, and do you suspect it will pass?
I wonder how many of those legislators would agree with the aspects or understand them well enough to have a whole lot of idea about what they're going to say. I guess it's another starting point, a place to go to make this problem better. A couple of things to think about with pensions. One of them is these people were promised this as a condition of employment. This was deferred compensation. Taking away pension money from people who've earned it is like taking away Social Security money from the people who have put into that fund all their working lives. And there's a misconception in the case of teachers, for example, in Illinois, who do not get Social Security. As a general rule, they get only the teacher's pension. So this is exactly like tinkering with the Social Security of people who don't understand public pensions. Another misconception is that a lot of people are making an awful lot of money in pensions, and there are some outsized, embarrassing levels of pensions, but the average pensioner in Illinois is $32,000 a year, which is not a huge pension, especially for the amount of time a lot of them have put in. A third thing to keep in mind is these people were robbed. If private industry had done with employee money what the state of Illinois did, there would be grand jury investigations. There would probably be people going to prison. This is criminal or borderline criminal, the way the state of Illinois perpetually, chronically underfunded the pension funds to give us the mess we're in now. And nobody in particular is responsible because so many people are responsible, not the least of which were the taxpayers who stood by fat and dumb while their money was diverted to other things and everybody knew it'd take care of itself one day. Well, now is the day. This plan is on the table. It recognizes some of the differences in needs, that all the pensions aren't the same and that one cookie cutter approach might not solve all. One of them holds back the cost of living increases for people who otherwise have some Social Security income, for example. This continues to have a proposal to shift pension costs for downstate teachers to the school districts, although, as I understand, at a slower pace than had been recommended by earlier proposals. What the end product of all this is going to look like is anybody's guess. It seems like a terrible shame, but somewhere between the 3rd of January, when the General Assembly comes back in session, and the 9th of January, when the new legislators are sworn in, with these lame ducks in that 6-day period, lies the best hope of getting something done about the pension mess. So we have our own fiscal cliff and we're moving at it pretty fast, but that's the working time frame, the 3rd to the 9th. If there's not a deal by the 9th, the state's in big trouble.
One of the elements of this proposal is that lawmakers would be required to make that pension payment. Haven't we heard that before?
Well, I thought they were required to make that pension payment before, but it seems like there are a lot of things government's required to do, and it simply doesn't. And you've got to hold the feet to the fire. We can't make this problem any worse. Jim talk about fixing the problem. I mean, that's a transfusion, and there's no point in making a transfusion until you stop the bleeding. This is the tourniquet. Then we worry about fixing the problem, but at the moment, the pension costs are growing. Is it $17 million a day?
Mm-hmm. In interest payment.
Can't
in obligation and interest.
Can't fathom those kinds of numbers, but at $17 million a day, I think we need to get something done in a hurry.
We need to take a break. We have more Metro Talk after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a 4-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year, I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darks there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live united for education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
This is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Pat, a proposal in the Illinois legislature calls for borrowing $4 billion, but Treasurer Judy Barr-Topinka says that's a mistake. She says we've got a structural problem. We don't need to be borrowing. Do you agree?
Her logic is very compelling. We owe about $9 billion in deferred payments There is a place on her website, Controller Topeka's website, that where you go if you're a vendor and you put in information, it'll give you some idea of where your bill is in the process. I think that's almost like looking online to see if you have a winning lottery ticket. Hey, this month we're going to get paid finally. And the lottery thing I think is relevant too, because if the state were to put lottery payouts on the same timetable as vendor payouts, they probably couldn't get anybody to buy lottery tickets. Everybody'd go play somewhere else. There's a kind of an underlying message in all that, I suppose. I have seen the merit in some circumstances if there is a plan that makes this a bill consolidation loan. Sometimes a bill consolidation loan can make sense if you can get a better interest rate and if you've got a plan behind it that keeps you from falling in the hole again. She's a pretty shrewd lady. She knows a lot about finance. She was state treasurer. Now she's controller. She's the point person. You know, she's the one who pays or doesn't pay these bills as the money is available to do it. Her reluctance is very sobering to me. She's saying there's no structure in place to make this anything more than a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound, and it's probably bad politics. I've not heard very much on the positive side of this proposal. I'd be curious about what the debate would say on the other side. Why is this such a good thing at this time? But I'm afraid it would ease up the pressure on politicians to fix the structural problem, because part of that pressure comes from vendors. When am I going to get my payment? And if I get my payment now, if I'm a vendor, that might make me okay and I'll ease up the pressure. I think we need the maximum possible pressure on the lawmakers to do something structural to solve the problem. And this gives them some relief from that. So I'm inclined to agree with Judy Barr-Topeka that this does not seem to me to make a lot of sense.
If I put my JCPenney credit card payment that I owe them, $290, if I use my MasterCard to pay that JCPenney bill, JCPenney's happy. Okay, they got their money. MasterCard is now owed an additional $245 or whatever. And I think that's what Judy Barr-Topeka is saying here. This is going to make borrowing this $4 billion, which, as Pat already pointed out, is less than half of what we owe in arrears. Okay, so it's only going to make about half the people happy. That would make those vendors happier than they are today. I have firsthand knowledge of a couple of medical providers in our community that are owed somewhere upwards of 245 days behind on some of these payments from the state. There are smaller pharmacies that are 6 months behind. These are people that still have employees to pay and lights to put on and stock to buy, and they have basically an IOU from the state that is accruing interest, by the way, but they're still waiting for their money. The idea that you could borrow $4 billion and reduce that interest rate might make sense. The interest rate on my MasterCard might be cheaper than the interest rate on my past due pennies account. So that might make sense that you come out a little bit ahead. But the only ones that really win here is the vendors that get some of their money, or some of the vendors that get all of their money. But as Pat pointed out when we were talking in the first session about a transfusion and not stopping the bleeding, this is a perfect example. The $4 billion transfusion would solve about half of the arrears payments. We still got the other half out there, and we're still racking that credit card every day. So we're growing. Not only are we going to pay that $4 billion back, we still owe another $5 billion sitting out there, and we're continuing to run the credit card every day, and we're going to grow that fund back. So I think that's probably Judy Barr-Topeka's biggest concern is, unless there's a structure that says we're going to borrow $4 billion to make these vendors whole, and we're going to stop spending by God, then we really haven't accomplished anything. And she hasn't seen it, neither have we. Just like the pension talk that we had in the first session, nobody has a real fix for this thing to stop growing back to where it was before.
Economic health. I mean, the solution to all this, the best hope for a solution is a restoration of the economy so that the tax revenue flows in and the state will be in better shape. The length of the recession, while it's hurt a lot of individuals very badly, it's also hurt government very badly. And I think ultimately that's the only hope for getting things back on track, is to hold it together long enough for the economy to improve. And even then you may need more taxes.
But there's the key. How long will that process take? If we went back to full employment in this state, which is the unemployment rate is running somewhere around 9.2% or something like that. If we went back to full employment tomorrow, and that means that all of those, that 9.2% people are all of a sudden paying 5% in income tax to the state, which, oh, by the way, was passed in a lame duck session 2 years ago, 67 and an additional 67%. It's still going to take a long time. We're talking about billions of dollars in the hole in a state that has a $33 billion budget for the whole state. For the whole operations budget of the state is $33 billion. We owe somewhere around $9 billion in arrears. We're still growing bills every day, and we've got a $93 billion unfunded pension obligation.
So if you're only going to borrow half the amount that you owe in bills, are you just looking at shortening the time frame for the outstanding bills? Are you looking to buy favor with the vendors that you have basically borrowed from? What's the purpose?
No, once upon a time I took an accounting class, and we have LIFO and FIFO, which is last in, first out, which means the last bills get paid first, or FIFO, which is first in, first out, which means the bills that are oldest gets paid first, or a mix somewhere in between. And that's what concerns me a little bit, is you then run into maybe the squeaky wheel. The squeakiest wheel gets paid, and the little guy that operates the little pharmacy in downtown Wood River, well, he doesn't really have any political clout. He can't hurt me. He can wait longer.
We call that pick poof. That's politically connected, paid first. That's what I learned in economics.
Well, somewhere there's an economics instructor who's really feeling proud right now.
No, because as Jim and I know, having had the same economics professor, we didn't speak the same language.
Dr. Burundi that we had in, 1970?
Don't say it.
Something or other.
Early 70s.
He should be proud that something stuck. That's all of it, but that was something.
Pat, a YouTube video shows a Collinsville police officer talking about rubbing illegal drugs on the sides of cars while they were parked at hotels in the Collinsville area. All of that being done as part of a training program for a drug-sniffing dog. Should that have occurred? Should private individuals' cars have been used as part of this training program?
He may not be old enough to remember. Some years ago out at Lambert Field, the police had a great idea. They put some explosives behind the bumper of a car in the parking lot to see if the dog could find it. The owner of the car found the car before the dog found the explosives, and they had a description of the car and a rough idea of where it was parked, but as I recall, they didn't even have the license number. So they ended up in the embarrassing position of putting out a public appeal saying, hey, if you had a, whatever it was, a white Ford Falcon, we may have put explosives behind
now
the bumper.
You're dating yourself with a Falcon.
Bring it back and we'll take care of that for you. Nothing bad came of that, sort of miraculously. Anyway, so now we've got Officer Reichert from the Collinsville Police. He stops a guy on the highway some months ago. The guy's a documentary filmmaker. The guy's unhappy at being searched. Nothing much came of the search, but he did breakfast in Collinsville, poking fun at Collinsville and the police about their drug interdiction habits. And he eventually sues the city and the police department. And Reichert is giving a deposition, and now there's a new YouTube sensation. Reichert's deposition, where Reichert is admitting to the lawyer for the plaintiff that sometimes to test the dogs, the police would go to a business like a motel while you're sleeping in your motel at night, and they would plant drugs in your car to see if the dog could find it. Or they might just wipe marijuana down the side of your car to see if the dog could find it. And Reichert admits on this video that it's possible that if you were pulled over by the police the next day while the aroma was still on and they searched your car with the dog because they were suspicious, the dog would alert, then they'd have a right to detain you longer, to take everything out of your car, to hassle you. and over something that you wouldn't even have an explanation for, although I'm not sure I would want to tell the police, well, no, the police in the next town back smeared marijuana on my car overnight. They'd probably be drug testing you if you said that. So it seems, in my mind, I think a reasonable individual might think that that was sort of reckless conduct on the part of police that theoretically could put people in jeopardy down the line for something they had nothing to do with. I don't think we've heard the last of this in the lawsuit, but I thought that the original breakfast in Collinsville thing looked kind of silly. The state's attorney felt like the police officer had done his job. The chief of police felt like he'd done his job. Nobody's talking very much about this sequel, about the rubbing the drugs on the cars, and I don't think that's very good for them.
Jim, was it a good idea for the Collinsville officer to rub illegal drugs on cars as part of a training program for a drug-sniffing dog?
Well, the last I checked, my car is my private property. And I don't care if you have a badge and a gun or not, but you don't have the right to mess with it unless, you possibly have a search warrant or probable cause or some other reason. They have no permission to even touch my car, much less possibly plant something on it or, rub something on the door handle. I would think that this could possibly open up a can of worms for people that may have been stopped at some time along the road. The thought process would be, well, they didn't find any drugs, so that person would have been detained and it would have been nothing but an inconvenience. But I can imagine being stopped on a highway for speeding and, Officer Fido comes down and hits and sits at my back bumper and says, I got dope in my car. I don't know how you would explain it. Nobody would believe you. The cop is going to believe that you got drugs in your car, or you had drugs in your car, because that's what that very expensive and very smart dog has been trained to sense. And, to me, Reichert admitting it on videotape just kind of opens the whole Collinsville police force and, cops in general, to those that are anti-cop, cops in general, to scrutiny that, we've all heard stories about planted evidence or a throwdown gun after a shooting. This kind of lends credence that we might have done something like this along the line.
I have this funny image in my head of a police officer handing you your back bumper and saying, "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Sheffel, we didn't find any drugs in your car. Front bumper's out there in the weeds."
We need to take a break. We've got more coming up.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to be talking with Michelle Singley about the dental hygiene program.
Dental hygiene students learn a variety of treatment skills when they're enrolled in the program at Lewis and Clark. For example, students learn to take a thorough medical history, to perform a head and neck assessment, including an oral cancer screening, and to assess the gum tissue, teeth, and bone of their patients. The students also take dental x-rays, perform dental cleanings, place dental sealants to prevent cavities, and treat the patient's teeth with fluoride or fluoride varnish. Dental hygiene students also teach others to take good care of their teeth with oral hygiene aids such as brush and floss. Our Gina the giraffe puppet is one of the students' favorites. We take her out to the schools to teach the kids good oral habits. For more information about the dental hygiene program, call us at 468-4413 and you can meet Gina.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
Lead paint poisoning affects 1 million children today. If you're pregnant or have young children and your home was built before 1978, you could be at risk. Learn how to protect your family. To find your home's danger zones, the health effects, or just to find help, log on to leadfreekids.org.
Bring out the action hero in you. Fuel up right and get energized. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader's here along with Pat Gowan. Jim, a dispute is brewing in St. Louis County over sales tax revenues. Some communities in the county are part of a pool and are sharing tax revenues. Other communities are not part of that pool and are getting to keep all the revenues that are generated in that municipality. What should we have? Should the counties be set up? Should the tax revenue be shared by communities, or should each community be on its own?
Well, since the pool of property taxes for funding schools works so well in sharing revenues. Oh, no, it doesn't very well, does it? You can see both sides of the argument here. The more affluent areas would think that they are subsidizing the less affluent areas with sales taxes, because you have a mall like the Galleria somewhere generating millions of dollars in taxes, and then 4 or 5 miles away you have another little municipality that doesn't have the tax base, and the people around the Galleria thinks that they're subsidizing the other people. I can see both sides of it. There's never a fair and equitable plan to share tax revenues of any kind. Property taxes for schools or sales taxes or any other kind of taxes, because those that generate most of the taxes, if that goes to another funding mechanism, they feel like they're short shift. The underfunded people are going to say, but we deserve it because it's not our fault because we don't have this big development and all of these property taxes. St. Louis is, as we've talked about on this program before, is such an amalgam, it's such a mess of different policing districts, all these, it's 105 municipalities?
91.
I'm sorry?
91.
91 municipalities, all in a metro area that if it was LA, it would be one city and one taxing district. This is all these little communities mishmashed together. There's not going to be a fair and equitable plan. I don't see that anybody is ever going to sign on to say, yes, please take some of my tax money and help my poorer brethren over here. But the poorer brethren are going to say, I deserve it.
Pat?
Point of sale communities that have the commercial areas share it with the others. They think if Fenton gives away $3.5 million more to the pool, it says, than it would have if it would have kept for itself if it could. It's the fragmentation Jim talked about. It needs to be brought together.
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader from the Telegraph has been here, along with Pat Gowan from the Post-Dispatch. We'll see you next time.